and welcome to Cover Story. Today we have with us a very special guest. I'm in conversation with Amarjeet Singh Dulat. He is the former chief of RNAW. He was the former special director, Intelligence Bureau, and also an advisor on Kashmir in the Vajpayee PMO. But more importantly, today we're talking to him because he's out with his latest book, his fifth book, The Chief Minister and the Spy. It is the story of a very unlikely friendship between you and the former Chief Minister of J&K, Mr. Farooq Abdullah Saab. But I must say, at the very outset, I read this book in one sitting. It's an excellent book. It's not just a story of a friendship.
Thank
It's
you.
a story
Thank
of
you
a
so
time.
much. You're very kind.
No, it is a book that has, I think, must be read by everybody who just likes a good read, apart from who wants to know about Kashmir politics. The book, as you know, has come out and it has, run straight into the headlines. So should we first just talk about, has the book achieved what it wanted to? Because you are talking about a friendship, but what we are hearing is that there is a paragraph in the book that has not gone down too well with your friend. And where he would talk about the post 2020 when you met him after the abrogation of Article 370. And if I may read that paragraph, which caused some
Please.
Because there are some key words in the paragraph that haven't been noted by people. So you've written that you met him after 370 and you'll tell us how you met him. And that's when he talked about the abrogations. And maybe he said the National Conference could even have had the proposal passed in the Legislative Assembly. We would have helped, he told me when I met him in 2020. Why were we not taken into confidence? Now this paragraph has been, I believe,
misinterpreted.
Bataiye.
Somebody's made I don't know who's behind it. I've been asked this question.
You've been asked.
And I said that day at the launch, I never named names. And so therefore, it's totally misrepresented. What happened was when I went to see Farooq, it was the 12th of February 2020, and he was a broken man, he was not himself. And he didn't look himself. And he said, we've been Indians. My father was an Indian. I'm an Indian. My children are Indian. But now my grandchildren are asking me, what kind of Indians are we? Because not only had he been locked up, not only had Umar been locked up, but Farooq's daughter, Safia, and his sister, Suraya, had been taken into custody for a day. So Farooq was shattered. He couldn't believe that after standing up for India, being with India, I think he's the ultimate nationalist in Kashmir, and to lock him up for what? So he said, if this had to be done, why could we not have been taken into confidence? The other sentence which you read is only maybe.
Maybe we could have
Maybe,
helped.
Yeah, when we talk, we say a lot of things. It doesn't mean that he was for abrogation. Even abrogation shattered him. But what shattered him even more was that they had to be locked up for it. You see, they had met the Prime Minister 2 days earlier.
Correct.
2 days before the abrogation. And I had asked Dr. Saab, and I had spoken to Omar also. I said, what transpired? And they both said separately that they were told nothing.
Yeah, Omar has said that also to us and on record also, that
So
Amarnath Yatra talked about everything but the abrogation.
Yeah, so that's how it is.
So that's
the reality.
Yeah, but what it is being interpreted as in the media or whatever.
You can interpret everything in whatever way you like. I get the feeling, now that Dr. Saab has not read this book. Otherwise, he would never react.
So,
because it's for him.
Well, if he had read
this
the
book is in appreciation and in praise of Farooq. Now, after a relationship of 37 years, would I write a book to run down Dr. Farooq?
No, because what really comes across is, I would say, if there is a bias, it is totally on the side of the
the other day Veer asked me that it's not very objective. I said, no. I said, it's not intended to be objective.
दिल से लिखी है किताब.
हाँ, दिल से लिखी है और क्या है?
Which is why I'm wondering, so ya to you did not realize that this sentence would be, because the way you've written it, I don't think you intended it to mean the way it's come across or the way people have taken it as.
But tell me, in a book which is almost 290 pages, Who picked out this one sentence? Somebody picked it out only to create mischief.
Fair
There
enough.
are so many sentences. You know,
Farooq is Kashmir. What a sentence.
yeah. Farooq is Kashmir. Farooq is the national conference. The other day at the launch, my friend Yasho Azad was doing the reading.
He read the preface.
And he read the preface and then he read the last paragraph of the book. He says, because of the controversy, I'd like to read the last paragraph.
I heard that.
So nobody from the media is willing to read the last paragraph or whatever else there is in the book. It's a bit sad, but it's okay. That's how it is. If you write a book, then you are open to criticism.
And he's written 5 books and run into a lot of...
Every time I have, there's been a controversy. I never thought this time there would be, because this book is very clear, it's very straight. It's only Farooq and nothing else.
No, it's only Farooq and it's
And of
understanding
course there's
Farooq,
Kashmir, because Farooq is Kashmir.
as you said. But have you reached out to him post the book to clear the air? Because you and he, the relationship you have deserves that outreach from you.
Yeah, how do you want me to clear the air? As far as I'm concerned, the air is clear. It's somebody in Srinagar or somebody prompted by Delhi in Srinagar who is not clear about what's in the book or who's creating mischief about the book.
We can take educated guesses. You're in the business of very educated guesses.
No, I don't name names. And
Okay, someone with a...
I've always said Dr. Saab is a great man. And that's not going to change, That's how it is.
You also said Dr. Saab is a man who has not been understood or not been used well either by Delhi or the centre. He never had ill feelings towards the centre. He understood the need of Kashmir to work with the centre, but the centre did not reciprocate. Can you elaborate a bit on?
To put it
Given examples.
in a nutshell, I think Dr. Farooq is one of those great leaders who has been wasted by Delhi, I have said many times he should be sitting in Rashtrapati Bhavan. I've also said, when in UPA 2, they made him a minister and gave him some...
Renewable energy.
Yeah. And in Kashmir, they said, Gobar gas mila hai Dr. Saab ko. Renewable energy. He should have been foreign minister.
Good point.
Who better than him to be foreign minister? Once there was when Musharraf came here, there was a banquet for him. And Musharraf was sitting far away from the table that Farooq was. So Farooq walked up to him, only Farooq could. He walked up to him and he said, Mujhe Farooq Abdullah kehte hain. So, that is Farooq.
Very James Bond.
Yeah.
But in fact, in the book, you also write that it was also, you were part of the reason why Omar became the External Affairs Minister, because you made the same suggestion to Vajpayee Saab.
No, I don't take credit for anything.
But
particularly now that Omar seems to be angry. But the fact is like this, that I was in the PMO and Omar was Minister of State for Commerce. And Atalji brought him to the Foreign Ministry as Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. I had nothing to do with that. But because the Prime Minister was frequently going out on tours all over the world, I suggested to Brijesh Mishra, I said, here is a young Muslim leader. Why don't you take him with you? And then they started taking him along on those trips.
He was the right calling card.
And the more he accompanied Atalji, the more Atalji got fond of him. Because there is something about Omar which is very likable.
Which is, you also compare the father and son, if you can, go on about that, and how, in fact, at this chief ministership, Farooq should have been or wanted to be, but he stepped back for his son.
He was very clear he wanted to be. But sometimes destiny plays tricks. Now, as you know, Omar was to come to Parliament. He had contested from Baramulla, but he lost that election. Now, having lost the election and the NC having got 50 seats with the help of the Congress, obviously, Dr. Saab stepped back like a good father and said, now you do it. Let the sun rise.
But if an Abdullah had to become, it could also be Farooq, because Omar was always saying, I don't want to be Arvind Kejriwal, I don't want to be
But he
while
is,
statehood
he is.
is not.
If you remember, at the time of his swearing in, Kejriwal said, if Umar wants to learn how to be half a chief minister, I can tell him.
Yeah, so you had to dig back at him.
Yeah. So poor Umar is still stuck. You know, after I went for the swearing in, I went because Dr. Farooq invited us. Not only I went, my wife also went. When I came back from there, I wrote a piece in the Asian Age saying that for the credibility of Delhi, and more so the credibility of the chief minister, statehood should be restored.
No, you have been also very clear, even about the abrogation. You have spoken
I
against
spoke
it.
against it, I wrote against it,
You
I've
have.
said everything against it.
But
So now, let me interrupt you just for a moment. If I could speak against the abrogation, if I could write against the abrogation, how could I ever say that Dr. Saab was for abrogation? It belies belief, you know. I mean, somebody's got to be really daft to interpret it that way. That is where the mischief is.
if you're just speculating as to where the mischief is, it could be someone who wants to target Dr. Abdullah more than you, because he is his national stature. You also written that he could become the face of the India alliance. So there is someone who wants to cut that short, create distrust.
Oh, that has been there throughout. Delhi was angry with him when he joined the India alliance. But he didn't give a damn.
So are you
when
connecting
he
the
wants
dots?
When he wants to do something, he does it. He doesn't do it because I say it or somebody else says it. He does it. That is Farooq.
So is that the answer to your question as to who could have created this mischief?
No, I don't know. I don't know. But obviously, it's somebody in Delhi because that story came in the Hindustan Times. Now, you know the press, maybe you could find out who did it. I don't know.
Wait for the sequel or wait for my column on Sunday.
Okay.
But, you've also said, in fact, in your book also you talk, and we all know that actually Farooq was talking about greater autonomy in 2002. He ran foul of the BJP government.
That's right.
Tell us about that, Varesh Mishra, in your conversation.
Yeah, it was not 2002. I think
2000,
it was. Maybe it was 2000.
Before the 2002 election.
2000.
You're right.
It was 2000. You see, there was a resolution for greater autonomy, which was admitted in the assembly. And Brajesh said to me, what is your friend up to? So I called up Dr. Saab, and he said, don't worry, it won't be passed. But it was passed.
Right.
Okay. Now, Farooq's point was very clear that, every time an election comes up, the Kashmiris say, what have you got to offer? What are you guys doing except for wanting to come to power? So that it's been necessary to project that the National Conference has been for autonomy. And it has been for autonomy. That's what it stands for, It's never asked for independence, unlike the JKLF, but it has asked repeatedly. Even in '96, when Dr. Saab contested the election, he had said, we need autonomy. And Narasimha Rao had appointed a small committee headed by Gary Saxena to look into that question. But you know how it is. These committees keep discussing things, and in the meantime, Farooq contested the election. And the same thing was in Farooq's mind in 2000, that the 2002 election was coming up, and they needed to do something. And when that resolution was dumped or thrown into the waste paper basket by Delhi, he was very angry. In fact, he was at one time thinking of parting company with the NDA. The party had met, and actually they had decided to part company with the NDA. It's just that at that time the Begum passed away.
Yes.
Begum Abdullah, Farooq's mother. And when that happened, my colleague in Srinagar rung me up desperately कि प्लीज़ कुछ करवाइए, यहाँ हालात बहुत ख़राब हैं, डॉक्टर साहब बहुत खफा हैं और ये अच्छा मौका है. So I went to Brajesh and I said, okay, you know, somebody big needs to go to Srinagar. And Brajesh Mishra said that Advani ji ja rahe hain. I said, no, PM should go. He said, then let me talk to the PM. And the PM agreed. And I accompanied the PM. And who was most delighted at that? Umar Abdullah. When I got off the plane, because there were 3-4 VIPs there, there was the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, I think Jaswant Singh Ji and George Fernandez. I got off first and Umar hugged me because he knew that if this had not happened and his father had walked out of the NDA, he would have lost his ministership.
On that note, I'm going to keep the conversation going, but a quick break, so don't go away. Hello and welcome back to a cover story conversation with Amarjeet Singh Dulat. We are speaking to him about his latest book, The Chief Minister and the Spy. We talked a bit about Omar's equation, but you also Vajpayee Advani. You said Omar, you compared them to Vajpayee Advani, Farooq and Omar, and you obviously that is not something Omar is going to like.
Why?
Well, everybody wants to be a Vajpayee.
So Farooq is Vajpayee. Okay. What's wrong with being Advani? If it's a play or a drama, I'd be quite happy being Advani. At least I could rub my hands like this.
And pass the blame to Vajpayee. But on another note, the relations between the father and son now, you say, have become, Farooq is, you said he's really proud of his son. He's watching the sunrise, as you said, and it's...
Not only is he proud of his son, that's all in the heart. He's become very protective of his son. He speaks only in praise of his son. And there's a sentence here that now he's not only loving him as a father, but he's glorifying him. And it's a fact. And Farooq, with age, is, as I've said in the book, is becoming a sage now. And he's a sage for his son. That if his son ever needs advice, the father is there.
And you see that role now, in terms of a mentor.
That's right.
You spoke about Narasimha.
In fact, I've asked him on a couple of occasions. We keep speaking. Now we've stopped speaking because Dr. Saab is upset about something. But I asked him umpteen times, how is Omar doing? He says he's working very hard, he's doing well. So that's how it is.
When Omar first became chief minister, there was a time when one thought that Farooq was going to become, but when there was confusion as to who would become, father or son. I think
in 2008 there was no confusion. It was just a pretense of confusion. There was no confusion. Omar had to be chief minister. Kashmir wanted Omar, and he was going to be chief minister. The occasion where Farooq was not convinced and not happy was 2002. He kept telling me, what's the rush? Why is Delhi in such a hurry to bring in Omar? After all, he's my son. Let him do an apprenticeship with me for a year, 2 years, whatever. Maybe even 6 months. Well, why rush it? And that was the time that he'd been promised vice presidentship. So that's one of the times that he felt betrayed.
And let down by Delhi.
One of many times.
Who has been, in your opinion, the best Prime Minister for Kashmir, or in Farooq's opinion, since this book is really through Farooq's eyes quite a bit?
You see, I've only seen chief ministers, or prime ministers from, there have been so many prime ministers. Now, I was too junior during Indira Gandhi's time, but from Rajiv Gandhi's time, that's when I was sent to Kashmir. As I've said in the book, the best relationship with the Congress that Farooq has had was during Rajiv Gandhi's time. They got along well and they understood each other to the extent possible. And Rajiv wanted Farooq as his man in Kashmir. The problem again, it's typical Delhi problem that they took too long to understand Farooq. Because by the time even Rajiv understood Farooq, Farooq was gone. He had quit. So other than Rajiv, I would say both Atalji and Dr. Manmohan Singh have been very good for Kashmir in different ways because they're different people and they're different governments also.
And now, what is the equation between Abdullah's and Gandhi's?
You see, I've written in the book, and that's when things began to change. You know, Rahul's yatra impressed Farooq hugely. And he also walked with Rahul here in Delhi. You know? And you must have seen there are photographs
Yes.
in the media of Rahul hugging him. Farooq actually called me up on that day. And he said, यार मैं इस लड़के के साथ चला गजब हो गया. I've never felt so emotional the way he hugged me. So that's how it was. That's where he was very clear that the India alliance made a lot of sense, and he would go with the India alliance. The other thing which Dr. Saab has said to me not once but more than once, but it's in the book also, that he was always inclined to be with the Congress if there was a Congress. Sometimes you get the feeling and people say the Congress is dead. Now what can Farooq do about that? He's not a leader of the Congress.
Correct.
But he has said to me many times that my father told me to stay with the Congress because the Congress's DNA is secular. So you must stay with the Congress. And that's how his thinking has been. It's not that he would never go with the BJP.
That was my next question going to be.
No, I'm telling you, it's not that he would never go with the BJP because he's a practical politician. But his preference is always the Congress. His heart is always with the Congress. And even today it is with the Congress, no matter what anybody says. Even if he denies it, I would say that no, his heart is still with the Congress. And very much with Rahul Gandhi. मैंने लिखा भी है किताब.
In fact, you said also it's almost very paternal feelings.
Yeah, that's right.
What
That's
you wrote.
right. Now, whether Rahul understands this or not, I don't know.
That's your next book.
That's my next book.
But what about Omar and the Congress? Are the father and son on the same page on that?
I don't think so, not particularly. Because you see what happened when this alliance was to be set up. These Congress leaders were rushing to Srinagar to meet the Abdullahs. And they first went to Umar. And Umar said, I have nothing to do with this. It's my father you have to talk to. And then the talking began with Dr. Saab. And the Congress was worried that whether the National Conference would agree to an alliance or not. Ultimately, it came down to, how it always is, a seat here and a seat there. But Dr. Saab was very clear that, we have to carry the Congress along. In fact, the Congress let down the National Conference in Jammu.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. And even the campaigning, the way it was done, they could have, Omar is right when he says they
That's right. I agree with Umar. And Dr. Saab also said they should have worked much harder in Jammu. And I also say they should have worked much harder. But if you ask me as politics goes in Kashmir, I think this alliance needs to hold for both sides, for the credibility of both sides.
And what is the role that Farooq Saab can play in the India alliance? Do you see him, India alliance needs a face or a coordinator.
You know what I said at the launch the other day?
Tell me.
I've written in the book that not only is he the tallest leader of Kashmir, and I'll tell you why now. I'll tell you in a moment. But he is one of the tallest leaders in the country. And there is a friend or a colleague of mine who said, "Aap kya baat kar rahe hain?" He is one of the greatest leaders of the world. So I said so at the launch.
That he is a national. So that could be, because we in the India Alliance needs a convener.
Yeah. So I said,
yeah.
in my mind, I've always thought that there are two ideal people. Both of them are a bit reluctant. One is, of course, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, because there's a lot of respect and regard for her. Nobody
Right.
says no to her. Yeah. The communists are happy with her. I mean, everybody is okay, fine with her. And the second in my mind is Dr. Farooq.
He is,
I
because
may be absolutely off the mark, but this is what I feel.
yeah, there is also
I'm only a watcher. I'm not a politician.
but you're a watcher who's totally on the inside track. One last question before I let you go is, you talked about lost opportunities. Where would you say was the most lost is wrong English, but where Farooq could have and the center could have come together and they didn't.
Oh, it's
Was it in
happened.
96? Was it?
It's happened time and time again. I would say it happened even with Modi ji.
When was this article?
When, after the abrogation, there was an opportunity. If the BJP had reached out properly to the National Conference, there was an opportunity on level playing field. There was an opportunity. As I've said, everything changed with the Yatra. So if Farooq at all had the BJP in his mind, it went. It finished with the Yatra. Because he felt like now he feels the sun rising. Then also he felt that there was a youngster who was rising in India and he had a future. So you have two suns rising.
So let's see, and we have people who are watching the thing. But I know it's not about Rahul, but do you think that Rahul has finally made it?
Oh yeah, I think he made it with the Yatra, but somehow after that he sort of slowed down. I think he needs to work harder. The Congress needs to work harder and more honestly. And then, now recently, Rahul said that the whole Congress setup in Gujarat had to be changed. Because he felt half the guys were working for the BJP. So the Congress needs to get its house together properly. And of course the Congress, it is the only party in opposition. There is no other party.
But that even Omar says, it is the only pan-India party in opposition.
Right.
So whether they...
So that's what I'm saying. Omar says it and Farooq says it more loudly.
On that. Well, I think that is how they both are. But on that note, thank you so much. And the pages of this book it's a story of a friendship, as you said, and a very deep friendship. And as I said, dil se likhi hai. And I do hope that this friendship will continue. But thank you so much on that note for this book.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Priya. Thanks.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.